If your child's behavior feels confusing or extreme, you might be missing the hidden clues that their nervous system is screaming for help. So, when our kids show behaviors, sometimes we're irritated by it, sometimes we're perplexed, but always know that all behaviors of all age kids are really breadcrumbs. And our job as parents is to really make sense out of what are these behaviors? What are they? What are they showing us? So I like you to reframe behavior, right? And not think of it as defiance, but dysregulation. And, when we react to behavior instead of taking a moment, pausing and see it, we don't really always see what's going on. We think of these behaviors as willfulness, laziness, sneakiness, when instead they are showing us either understimulated or overstimulated behaviors. So let's go into what are these behaviors and what we can say when we see them, and also, what do we do when we see these signs? So, signs of understimulation, those are the behaviors that we often see as like passive aggressive defiance or laziness or shutdown. They can be things like boredom when they're not, doing anything but gaming, or trouble initiating tasks, or being zoned out or in their own world and not wanting to engage. Need for seeking high stimulation activities like everything from physical activities to, highly stimulating games, being easily distracted or trouble listening and following directions, and really even just being sluggish, slow to process. And I think one of the most common behaviors I see with all kids is probably trouble transitioning. I feel like this is dramatically increased since increase in device time in all areas. Like somebody recently was telling me they have iPads at school. And I was like, iPads, of all the things that they would give kids is iPads. And it was a Catholic school. And I said, I'm assuming somebody donated it because it just doesn't make sense. That's like not a great resource to be using in school. So, what do we say to kids when they're really struggling and they are the understimulated type of behaviors that we talked about? I love to initiate movement. So I would say, you know what? Your brain feels a little, might be a little sluggish right now. Let's move together for a minute. Today I saw John Carlo. He was like irritated that I didn't let him get on his computer. It's a Sunday. And he had like plans to be out today. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're not getting on there. And I said, honey, you have one brain. And my job is to help you protect your brain. And it's funny, he didn't say no to me. I could see he was irritated at first, but then, I just did it as a brain thing, right? It's never a bad idea to have your kids understand and get educated. Like it's, not a lecture. Like whenever I can, I talk about brain research so they can be better informed. It will sink in there. And my friends that have, older kids, they'll be like, wow, all that work paid off. You can say things like, I know it seems hard to get started. Do you want a timer or a little help for me to give you a boost to get going? Instead of saying, get started right now, I like to give kids like a sense of time. I find that the understimulated kids often have time blindness. So helping them to say, like, we have 30 minutes. How long do you think you'll need in that 30 minutes to get started? Right. Do you know how long it will take you to do this task? Like get them to start estimating so they have a sense of time, because I can tell you what time it is very close without having any sense. I would have been like the people. I don't even wear a watch, and I'm usually pretty close to what it is. I mean, obviously we all have our phones now, but some people have a sense of time, others don't. I have such a demand on my time that I have to think about, well, this is going to take this long and this is going to take that long. And we need to teach that to our kids. Okay, what are signs of overstimulation, which is misread as a bad attitude, meltdown prone, runs hot, whatever it is. So those frequent emotional outbursts, I didn't say frequent, I said frequent. Emotional outbursts, Freudian slip. Sudden shutdowns, like, "I'm not gonna do that." There's always a bit of a sauciness. Sensory sensitivity, especially to crowds, refusing to wear certain clothing because of the touch, overwhelmed in crowds, covering ears, but overreactions to minor changes, transitions, any kind of demands, and a lot of fearful responses and anxiety before routines. That can fall on the understimulated too, but usually when it's overstimulated, you see a lot of pushback and a lot of vocalization about it, aggressive or impulsive behaviors. So, what do we say to kids that are showing that, right? So, your body is telling us it's too much right now, right? I like for kids to have a much more of a body awareness. If we make this a head component, like a thinking component, for overstimulated kids, they slip right outside of their body, and then it's another thing to argue about or push back on. Um, and you can just say, "Oh, your body's telling me this is having a hard time right now. Let's switch gears. Let's take a break. Let's get up and move around." And then you're teaching your kid, "Okay, you need a transition." There's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. And you're also feeling better as a parent because you're not personalizing it. You're modeling the behaviors you want to see. When kids have these big emotions where you're like, where did that come from? I don't know how to manage it. Like, it's such a misperception. I like to acknowledge it, right? And say, oh, I see this feels really big. I've got you. I'm here and we can work through this together. Okay. And I think kids just need to know that you can be an emotional anchor without, overreacting or trying to jump in and solve it. Really pause. The power of a pause is incredibly powerful. And we don't want our kids to feel distressed, but having a moment of distress actually can be so incredible. I was in the grocery store the other day and I was struck by, like, this little kid just, like, crying and crying and crying. Felt like crying, 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 but it was like a minute. And I went around the corner and the mom, we were in the vegetable section, of course. And she let the kid, kinda regulate. She didn't really even say anything. She just sort of put her hand on him, and he stopped, and then he regulated, and then he was fine. We were in that veggie section for a long time, and I thought, "Good for her." Like, she comforted him without rescuing him. She didn't tell him to stop it. It was early. No, there were only us, me and the old people in there. I'm not counting myself as the old person, but I thought, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." So, what do you do when you see these signs of over or under stimulation, right? Number 1, we talk a lot about this in my book. I can't wait for you guys to get my book. Stay tuned, 2026. You're gonna track triggers. You really have to say, like, what's happening? Is this a repeated pattern? Is there a sensory trigger? Is this related to food? Note the time of day. You really wanna put some thought around it. You don't have to track every single thing, but you wanna maybe take a week and kinda look at it, right? Since transitions tend to be one of the biggest problems for kids, you always want to prime your kid before transition. You don't wanna be like, "We gotta go right now." I'd be startled by that now too. In 5 minutes, we're gonna switch and we're gonna be doing homework. Okay? What did I just say? I like for my kids to repeat because, I got one kid that doesn't, the other one, whatever. Or, "Hey, we're about to start our homework. Would you like to do some breath work or do you want to do some stretching first?" You don't say, "Do you want to do it?" You give them a choice of 2 things. That's the way it works, people. You do the same thing with food, okay? Offer sensory or movement. There's just nothing more powerful than movement for shifting gears, whether it's irritation, whether it's a behavior. It just teaches the body to do something else and to use that. And also at such a deeply subconscious level, your kids will take that on. And that will be such a future awesome thing for them. You're going to use first then scripts. So for the first 10 minutes, we're going to read and then you can have a break, right? It's priming them, it's giving them a little more control, and you'll hear like, "Hey, mommy, before I play my video games, I'm gonna read my book. Is that okay?" And my kids would do that. I'd be like, "I really like that. I think that's a great idea." And just over time, they start internalizing it. Constancy is needed, right? You want to co regulate before correcting. Don't go in hot, right? You want to sit nearby. You want to model, maybe you want to model the breath work. Like, you know what? I know this is a lot for you right now. It's a lot for me. I'm going to sit here for a minute and I'm going to do some breathing. If you want to join me, that's okay. But I need to do it for myself. And if you're seeing these signs and affecting your child at school, you want to collaborate with teachers. Teachers can be amazing. Ask for what signs they're seeing, share what works with them at home, or ask them, like, how are you handling this at school? Because the more you can do strategies collaboratively, that's a higher level of reinforcement. And, that behavior is just that nervous system speaking out loud. And once we learn to listen, we can support our kids in the way that they need it. And that support really becomes the basis of their learning so that we shift from away from of over and understimulated behaviors to regulated behaviors and self-regulated behaviors. I love tools to help kids when they're dysregulated, but honestly, your greatest tools are parenting. Are you setting a rhythm and a routine to your day? Predictability reduces anxiety and conflict. Are we doing body resets, regulation? Are we doing breath work? Are we doing movement activities? Are we doing lots of hugs? Are we doing tapping? Are we doing a hard hug? Like, what are we doing and how are we doing it and how often? You must practice daily nervous system resets, you and your child. That is the foundation for learning. That's just how it works. And don't wait for the meltdowns to teach regulation and coping skills. It's gonna happen in the moments in between. And so when you cue it in the meltdowns, boom, their subconscious brain goes, "Oh yeah, that works." And they're able to do it, right? You probably already know that if they have a regulated sibling, they just know how to do it. It's because they're listening when their sibling is dysregulated. I learned that from my own kid. And don't forget to give yourself space to reset too, because your calm teaches their calm, right? So, when your child zones out or, explodes, it's not about disobedience, it's that red flag in the nervous system. And that's incredibly important. If you are looking for support, every single path we have will guide you to the right solution. And I have designed this quick 3-minute little quiz that you can take, and you go to drroseann.com/help, and it's going to guide you to the right solution for exactly what you need. I know everybody wants to work one-on-one with me, but the majority of our options are not that. And just know, if you do want one-on-one support, this would be the time, because I'm not going to be doing this forever. So I'm giving you fair warning. But just know that that A in the comms is avoiding personalizing. And when you start to see your child's behavior as an opportunity to help them regulate and not personalize it, boy, this is really when the magic starts to happen. So, you got this. You got to put your parent detective hat on, see the behaviors, see the triggers, and regulate your self first before you go in to help them.
More insights and solutions, will subscribe to our Dysregulation Insider and it will show up in your inbox every week.